This video is about my Bushcraft cutting board, which can also be used as a small table or stool. All my videos are interconnected, and if you follow my channel, you might have seen spoilers about my tar distillery and this end grain cutting board with legs. But in this video, I'll provide more details. End grain cutting boards not only look good, but they are also easy on knives. A typical end grain board is glued from small segments of wood, which prevents it from cracking when it undergoes multiple drying cycles. However, my Bushcraft cutting board will be used at my campsite, and I decided to make it look massive and crude. You don't even need a table for it. In fact, you can use it as a table. There is a black aspen tree that fell near my log cabin last winter. I liked the way the wood looked, so I used it to make my shaving horse, some of my cabin's furniture, and this very cutting board. Even though this aspen fell last winter and was no longer attached to its roots, it still grew some leaves. This means moisture was evaporating all this time. There was no rain during the last month, and the grass is all dry now. All this is actually good because the log should be fairly dry. I cut an excellent 10-inch 25 cm thick segment out of it for my Bushcraft cutting board. However, aesthetically it looked rather bulky. To preserve its massiveness and heavy-duty nature, I cut a taper into the board using a string as a guide. I tapered the edges quite radically, yet the remaining thickness of the material was enough to drill out holes for the legs. I used a generator to power my side grinder for rounding out the tapered portion of the segment. I decided to use crooked branches to go along with the rugged design. Each leg has to get tapered to fit to the socket. My shaving horse wasn't ready at this point, so I used a regular chisel to carve them down. It wasn't an ideal tool and I could have used a side grinder, but I was saving on gasoline for my generator to charge my cameras and drone's batteries. I also could have used my homemade draw knife, but again, my shaving horse was not complete yet. The day before, I started to make my tar distillery to produce tar and rosin from oily pine roots. I needed rosin to glue the legs onto the aspen segment to complete my cutting board project. Please let me know if you have an idea what can be done with tar and rosin besides using them as an adhesive and a water repellent. Okay, I got enough rosin and now we can start the gluing process, which is no different from using any other glue. Once turpentine evaporates from rosin, it acts like a strong adhesive and would hold the legs in the sockets securely. I made a mistake in the process, and one of the legs did not pass my quality control of visual appeal. With great difficulty, I managed to pull it out thanks to Archimedes and his invention of the lever. I replaced the leg with a less crooked pine branch. All that is left is to cut the legs to size to make the structure steady and functional. A blacksmith's rule of thumb for anvil making is applicable here when establishing the height of the legs. They would make anvils to the height at which your thumb hangs when you're standing with your arms to your side. I chose this height for my cutting board because I plan to slice food while standing or sitting on a tall chair. I'm using my homemade frame saw to cut and shave down the legs. I like it so much that I have been using it for just about every project lately. Guess I'll keep using it till it gets boring. I decided to make the cutting board three-legged because no matter which terrain you put it on, it will always be steady. After all, it is a bushcraft cutting board, and it's not easy finding a perfectly flat surface in the outdoors. To prevent staining and absorption of moisture, I applied regular food-grade oil onto the cutting board surface. I should have applied it to the underneath surface as well, because within 1 week it started to crack. To prevent further cracking, I applied leftover epoxy resin from my kayak project onto the underneath surface of the board. Now, my cabin has a cutting board that can also serve as a stool or table. All I have left to do is make a permanent oven, a bed, a kitchen table, and chairs. Once these are completed, I will be able to visit and live in the log cabin during the winter. Here is the grace of nature's lines. How do you like the cutting board's curvy legs? If you liked this video, perhaps you could share it with your friends. Let good people watch good videos. This is Maxi Gorov, St. Petersburg, Russia. And a final note, I only produce 1 or 2 videos max a month, and if you don't want to miss new content like this, you can click on the bell reminder for notifications. I hope to see you back on Advoko Makes.